everyone. Welcome to the SACNAS Native Initiatives webinar series. Today's webinar features an interview with Representative Ponka-We Victor from the state of Kansas. My name is Dr. Darrell Monto, and I'm the SACNAS Native Initiatives Manager. I'm an enrolled member of the Kiowa Tribe of Oklahoma and also of Apache and Comanche descent. I am starting year 3 with SACNAS, and I'm very glad to be a part of this amazing organization that has been around for over 48 years. And we are so glad that you joined us today. I want to take a brief moment to welcome our first-time attendees to SACNAS. We are a fully inclusive organization dedicated to achieving true diversity in STEM, where the field, including leadership positions, reflects the demographics of the population. As the nation's largest multicultural and multidisciplinary STEM diversity organization in the country, SACNAS creates space where all members, volunteers, and partners feel they belong and can embrace their intersectional identities. If you are not yet, we invite you to join SACNAS as a member. Membership gives you access to a welcoming community of like-minded students and professionals from all STEM disciplines, including the opportunity to connect with one of our 118 chapters across the country. Eligibility to apply for programs specifically for each stage of your education or career, exclusive opportunities like jobs, internships, and more from our partners, and an opportunity to raise your voice for true diversity and inclusion in STEM. You can sign up for free by visiting sacnas.org/memberships. And just FYI, we will be sharing more information and links in the chat feature as well. We have a few housekeeping rules to review. If you have any questions throughout the panel portion of this webinar, please submit them via the chat feature, and we will answer as many questions as we can toward the end. Remember to always be polite and respectful to others with your comments. If you have any additional questions that we don't get to, please stay to the end of the webinar to see how you can continue the conversation in the SACNAS online community. Now let's get started. Today we are joined by Kansas State Representative Ponka-We Victor. Representative Victor is serving her 6th term in the Kansas House of Representatives and represents the 103rd District of Wichita, Kansas. She is the first Native American woman to serve in the Kansas legislature and is a member of Tohono O'odham Nation of Arizona. She holds a master's degree in public administration from Wichita State University and a bachelor's degree in biology from Newman University. She completed her doctoral degree in education from Creighton University in 2020. In the legislature, she serves on the transportation budget, state tribal relations, and transportation committees, and most recently appointed to the Kansas-Oklahoma-Arkansas River Commission by Governor Kelly. Also, Representative Victor is the vice chairman of the National Native American Caucus of State Legislators. She serves as an advocate for undocumented students and families, the 4 tribes of Kansas, education, safety, and is a protector of the environment. Please join me in welcoming our guest today, Representative Ponka-We Victor.
A little background is that I participate in my culture. I'm a Native American dancer. I dance in the cloth category and the buckskin category. I have all my life. And I still attend powwows. I attend cultural ceremonies, so I won't forget, who I am and where I come from. I'm very proud of my heritage and where I come from. I just recently got married, April 10th, to my wonderful husband, Dustin Kozad. And so, just adapting to all of that, I feel like I kind of grew up in the Kansas legislature because I started when I was 29. And so I've learned so much. I've learned how to maneuver and in this world of politics. And so I'm very, like I said, I'm very honored today to be a part of this. And it is so important that, people ask questions and people get involved in this process, because there is a relationship between science and being a leader and being in political role. There's so much that is so important that, like I said, we need all voices at the table from all backgrounds. That is very important. And so I can't stress that enough, but thank you again. And well, let's get into the interview.
Great. Thank you for sharing all of that, Ponka-We. I just want to hear more a little bit about, because of, your background and how you've kind of maneuvered and worked through and to be at where you're at today. How did you balance all of that in terms of, family, and also staying connected to your culture? Because I know that that is a big part of who you are. What is that? How does that look like for you? And how are you able to, maintain all of that?
It was always about balance, because growing up in Wichita, we didn't have a big Native American community. So it was about, I'd say, balance and educating others about our culture and who we are. There's a lot of stereotypes out there about Native people. Some people think we don't even exist anymore. And so it was always about balance and educating others. And I'm still educating my colleagues in the Kansas legislature, because a lot are totally clueless about our issues that we have. Just because we're not present every day or you don't see us doesn't mean that we don't have things that we need passed into law too. So my growing up, I was always the only Native in my school or in Girl Scouts. I participated like in soccer. I was only Native on the soccer team or cheerleading and student council. So it was never something, new to me. When I got elected to office, I always had to constantly educate others about who we are and our culture. And I've always been proud of that. So I always performed for my school and did dances during like Native American Month. And my mom would come and she would make fry bread for our classroom, my classroom, and just different things that I tried to incorporate into my daily life, like at school. And with a name like Ponka-We, I went by Ponka-We my whole life. My English name is Jessica. So my mother gave me the choice to go by Jessica or Ponka-We, but at that time when I was getting ready to go to kindergarten, I only went by Ponka-We. So I didn't understand the big deal of why I would choose to go by Jessica. So when it came time to enroll, first day of school, the teacher said, there is no way, she has a hyphen in her name, it's long. I suggest she go by Jessica, or isn't there a nickname we can call her? And my mom said no. That's her name. And I had two older brothers and I already knew how to spell my name. And so they taught me how to spell my name and write it. And so ever since then, it was always that my name stuck out. People always wanted to know what it meant. It worked. Sometimes it's worked for me and sometimes it's worked against me. In that meaning that my first day of school in kindergarten, I got in a fight with a little boy because he called me a dirty Indian. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it meant like I didn't shower that morning or I didn't wash my hair. I really didn't understand it. I don't think he understood it either. But I was swinging and on the swing set, and he said, "Get off that swing, you dirty Indian." And that really hurt. And so we got in a fight. And they called my mom, and I could see everybody's faces change when I would say, he called me a dirty Indian. So I fought him, and ever since then, I understood that either my name can work in my favor or it can work against me. And so I always have to be prepared what people might say or how people might react to my name. I just, that really taught me how to be strong. You have to be strong to carry that name. That's what my grandma said. If you go by your native name, it's going to make you stronger. And so from that day forward, I knew what she was talking about, because when I got into the legislature, they asked me the same thing about, isn't there something else we can call you? I'll never remember your name. And I was like,
Wow.
here we go again. So, um, and just, ever since then, everybody has really tried to learn, and now more than ever, interested in our culture and who we are as Native people. And we see all these other races and groups fighting for their rights, and we've already been through that. And we had to prove that we were even humans first, and so that the law could help us in our favor too. And so that, we started way back there. So it's just crazy, because a lot of people are, I didn't know this happened or that happened, but we always knew that. We always understood that it was there. And so we just did the best we could. And that's how I think I can break down a lot of stereotypes, is by educating. And it's also helpful because I've learned how to work with everybody, not just my own people, but with everybody. I'm a Democrat, but I know how to work with Republicans, conservatives, all across the board. I have friends in every group. I've learned how to make friends and with everybody, because I'm always the only one. Now we have, Representative Haswood, which is wonderful. And I'm trying to teach her that same thing, is as Native people, parties really don't mean a lot to me. It's about, how we can work together and for our state. And we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we do our best. And I'll give them something, like I'll vote for something they have, but maybe they'll help me on Native issues. So it's always give and take sometimes. But I've always been proud of who I am, and very involved in my culture, and not only on powwows, but my dad's side in Arizona, 2 different tribes. My parents met at high school when it was a junior college. My dad, he comes from a desert tribe in Arizona, and my mom Plains tribe. And his tribe's a little different, but we go back there for ceremonies too in Arizona. And we attend different events and ceremonies and functions in Arizona. So I learned how to balance all of this while growing up in Wichita as a city girl. So I did live on my reservation in Arizona for a short time. I went to Central Arizona College, and I attended there for 2 years, and I graduated. And during that time, I was my dad's tribal queen, Miss Thon-Otham Nation. And so I got to learn firsthand some more about my dad's people and ways. And I'm just very thankful to be from 2 strong tribes and be proud of who I am.
Wow, that's really great. I really appreciate you sharing all of that. Especially like when you talked about, your name, and, it is powerful. It is a powerful name. And I'm sure that there are many, many of our members that, have had those same situations, those same dealings with people not, pronouncing their name correctly, having to always, correct people not understanding. And the important thing is, the education part of it. I mean, I think have always been in the position where, we're having to always educate people. But yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that story. It's a little disheartening, to know, but these are some of the things that we face. A lot of us have faced these challenges. And then also you mentioned Representative Christina Haswood. For our viewing audience, she was just elected into the Kansas State Legislature from Lawrence. She is also from the Dene Nation, and so she is going on her 2nd year, I believe, serving as a state legislator. So really, really happy to see the representation, especially in the state of Kansas, with our Native women leading the way. That's great. So the next area I wanted to move into, was to start to discuss your education. And I think one of the things that has always intrigued me is that you started out as a biology major. And so I'm curious as to what got you going in that area, and then you're totally moved into a different area, which is great. But yeah, I just want to learn a little bit more about what that experience was like, and if you have any advice for our STEM students.
Okay, so I've always liked science. I've loved science. I'm more of a hands-on person. Uh, Growing up, I never, my weakness was always like in English or reading, and my strength was always in math and science. And I always try to take all the science classes that I possibly could, because I knew I could do well in them, like even earth science. I took even food science. I took, biology, chemistry, microbiology. I just thought, I just always had a taking to that field. And so when I went to Central Arizona College, they said pick a major, that you want to get your general your general studies out of the way, but pick some electives that you really like. And I went toward all science, and it's just something that I feel like I understand, because it's more hands-on. And I've had some really great science teachers. And so when it came time for that, I picked my undergrad major to be biology. Another thing I always liked was the healthcare field. And I wanted to go into the healthcare field. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a doctor, no matter what, either an ear, eyes, and throat doctor, or something in the field. Because as natives, in our hospitals, we're always short-staffed when it comes to doctors. And growing up, sometimes I would have to go to the IHS, the Indian Health Service hospital, and I would question my mom why I would have to wait in the emergency room for like 8 hours to be seen by a doctor. It's a long wait. You have to call in sometimes, on this certain day of the month to see a dentist, and he's only there for like 2 days a month or something. And so I always question my mom, why do we have why do we have to wait so long to see the doctor? I think I was only like maybe 10 years old. And she said, well, when you grow up, you can be a doctor and you can come back and work in Indian Health Service. And that is something that I was interested in. And, we have outdated equipment too, like in IHS. And I always didn't think it was fair. And so I wanted to do something to change that as a girl, and then growing up. And so I would write letters to my then governor when I was in 8th grade. And I started getting involved that way. It was during the Columbine shootings. And I would tell my governor, and I would write my state legislators that I didn't feel safe going to school. And I really wanted like metal detectors, to go into our schools. And I didn't feel safe eating my lunch. And that's how I kind of got involved, and just kind of being open to everything, and seeing, like I said, the lack of doctors at the Indian Health Service, the lack of equipment, the things that were going on in the world, and keeping up with everything. And my mom was always honest with me. She never hid anything from me. She always told me straight out of how it was, and what I could do to help. And it's important to go to school and get good grades so you can help do something about this when you grow up. And that's exactly what I did. And I was always involved like in coat drives, like trying to collect coats for in high school for other kids, or my mother, as far as the environment, she would wake us up on a Saturday afternoon and we would pick trash along the river, and always trying to give back and trying to protect Mother Earth, and always recycling. And I believe we use the bags before they're in now, but we've always did things like that. And so just seeing that, and then I graduated with my undergraduate degree in biology in 2005. So I was on this road. I was like, well, I'm going to get probably my master's, or I'm going to go on and take the test to get into medical school. But, meanwhile, I did like these summer camps at KU, where it was for minority students who were interested in the science field, and talking about our options, what we could do as far as careers. So I did a couple of that. I think one of them was called Careers to Pathways, or Pathways to Careers, or something like that. And that was awesome. And so I just always did like programs that I feel like would benefit me. I didn't grow up rich. And so I always looked for things that had scholarships involved so I could attend. Like I said, my parents couldn't afford to, put me in some kind of science camp or program. I always had to look for like scholarships, and there was always people willing to help me. And I'm not ashamed of that, because it helped get me here. And then somebody said, I had told somebody what I was interested in as far as the Indian Health Service and fixing some of our policies and broken treaties that haven't been upheld. And he said, why don't you do this internship in DC? It's called the Morris K. Udall Native American Congressional Internship. And I said, well, I just graduated with my science degree. He said, it don't matter. You still need to know the process of how everything works in DC and how people are making decisions for us. And that's how healthcare, our education, our water rights, our gaming rights are all discussed there. So I went and I interned, and I got to work with the Senate of Indian Affairs Committee. And at that time, it was under John McCain. And I seen firsthand who made the decisions for us. And there wasn't one Native American on that, in that discussion or on the panel. They were all white males, and that made decisions for us. And have you ever been to a reservation? Do you understand what it's like to wake up with no water because the local town drained it? And a lot of them was like, no. And so that kind of, got to me. And I remember talking to Senator McCain, because he was like, how's your intern experience? And I said, I told him, we need more representation over here. And he said, well, you should run for office. And I said, I don't know about that. I'm maybe behind the scenes. And he said, no, you should go home and get involved in your local party and, figure out the process, get to know your local leaders. And when the opportunity arises, run for office. You can change, you can do something about that. Start locally. And that's exactly what I did. And I wasn't in grad school then, but in Washington, D.C., I started applying for scholarships, and I got a scholarship to Wichita State University in public administration. And so that's kind of where it all changed, and I started getting into politics. And so It was very interesting because I also interned over there in DC for the Department of Education in the Civil Rights Office, and we worked on some things as well dealing with the science field and making sure that women's science professors get the same opportunities as the male science professors. So we worked on some legislation then about that. And so I had learned that, it is so important that, it covers everything. A lot of people are making decisions for us that have no clue. And so I really am glad that I did all those programs and internships because it opened up my mind to a lot of things that need to be addressed. And after that, I came home and I think I was 25 and I got involved. And by 28, I was on the road running for state legislator. A door did open and I went for it. And here I am 11 years later, and I'm so thankful that I did that.
That's wonderful. And that's really good to hear. I think it's really important for our students, our Native students in STEM especially, to take advantage of any opportunity that comes their way, internships, REU programs, just whatever, that they're able to be involved with. And as you mentioned, wow, those experiences just kind of really navigated you, to where you are today. And so that's really great. And I'm really appreciative that you shared that journey with us. Which leads me to the next part of our conversation, is to really talk about the work that you've done as a state legislature. I know that you've been involved in a lot of work, especially here in the state of Kansas, to help, our Native people and the 4 tribes of Kansas. And I'm just, curious, what has been the most meaningful legislation that you've worked on? And also, where do you see, what does the future look like, for Natives in the state of Kansas?
Well, ever since I started in 2011, I've hit the ground running as far as learning the process, taking the time to learn the process, and learning how the bills become laws for our state. And when I first got to the legislature, there was hardly any Natives that came to the Capitol in Kansas. And so I asked my governor then, Brownback, why there was no Natives. And he had said, well, maybe they don't have any issues. And I said, well, have they ever been invited to the Capitol, the tribes and the tribal leaders? And he said, well, no. And I said, well, that's our culture. You have to be invited somewheres. And we don't just show up and start demanding things and whatever. And he said, well, why don't I'll work with you, and you can teach me how to, work with the tribes and we don't see eye to eye on things, like I said,
Yeah.
But we did see eye to eye on that. And I do say that he did work hard. He gave each tribe like a buffalo, and he went to every reservation, and me and him, we did the Native American Day at the Capitol. We started that because Arizona had one, New Mexico, but we didn't have one. But we had a Native American Legislative Day where the tribes got to come to the Capitol and they get to talk about their issues, and we dedicate like everything to them for that day. And in return, we have like donuts and coffee with the legislators, and just to have that presence in the Capitol is so important. We've had mini powwows in the Rotunda, and my mom had a good idea, like, hey, let's have like Indian tacos one night. And the Governor Brownback's like, well, let's have them at the mansion. So we had Indian tacos at his mansion one night. It was really fun. And I really applaud him for he did try to reach out and make the tribe and the tribal leaders feel welcome. And so just opened up my mind. And once I figured out the legislative process, I knew I couldn't get anything passed without my Republican colleagues. And so I had to network and make friends on the other side of the aisle, and I did. And I worked with them, and a lot of them came forward and was like, hey, I want to help you the best way that I can, because I think, one of the problems that we had in the state was some of our Native American veterans were illegally cheated. When they went to war, they came back and they was getting state taxes taken out of their check even though they were domiciled on Native federal land. And so I said, how long has this been going on? They said about 30 years. And I said, we need to stop that. So the veterans came, and I taught them how to do the hearing process, and we fought for their money to get returned back to them. And a lot of veterans helped me from both sides of the aisle. And that was a success. And everybody voted for it in the legislature. I'm proud to say that every one of my bills that I've did, and I've did over maybe, I don't know, 7 or 10 or some, every bill that I've worked on has passed with full support. It's passed both the House and the Senate with full support. And that's hard to do because a lot of times you have people that I'm not voting for this, and and I don't, but I did my homework. I worked with everybody, people that had issues with my bills or whatever, I would educate them. And the last one that we recently passed this session, because I'm training Christina now, or Representative Haswood, is the murdered and missing women bill that we got passed into law for the state, where the Highway Patrol is working with the Attorney General and the tribes about this big epidemic that's hit Native people, our Native community. So that's one of the bills that we helped get passed. And but my favorite was to see the veterans, like, they were so happy, because I think they had some of them had lost faith in the system, that they were ever going to get that money returned. But once it got returned, it's like they were renewed, and what else can we do, and how else can we, get involved? And they was just so excited. And my grandpa was a veteran, and so I have so much respect for veterans. And when I had an opportunity to help the Native veterans there in Kansas, it was a great honor. One of the other bills that I've had passed that I'm proud of is, a lot of times when we graduate, we're not allowed to wear our eagle feathers on our caps or our Native regalia. So a lot of times everybody wants you to look the same, but we're not the same. And to me, like, when I first went to the legislature, I didn't even own a suit. I didn't have a suit. So I went to my mom that week, and I said, Mom, I don't have a suit to be sworn in, and I have to be sworn in a suit. And she said, oh, you have lots of suits. And I said, what are you talking about? And I said, I don't own one suit. And she said, your Native American clothes, those are your suit. That's the best you have. Wear that. And I said, oh, yeah. And so I got dressed in my Native regalia, and everybody was shocked, like, wow, you really went out. But to me, that was my Sunday's best, and it was the best clothes that I had. And so I got sworn in my Native clothes. And so I understand the significance when students want to wear that for graduation, because it does mean a lot. And I wore my great-grandmother's blanket, who I'm named after, Ponka-We, and it was just, a lot of people don't understand that's our best, our Sunday best. And so I worked on a law that when we graduate or for an important function that we're able to wear our Native regalia and our feathers on our cap. And so that was a big importance. And then I made my colleagues feel comfortable because they are like, yeah, you always get sworn in your Native regalia. Like, why is it a big deal for some schools? But we never know. So we just wanted to get it on the books and make sure that everybody is covered when it comes to graduation time. And so other states have asked for similar language. I noticed Arizona used our same language recently. They passed their bill, regalia bill, this past session. And so I'm always trying to, look for ways that we could, like share our cultural heritage with others and in a peaceful manner, and as well as to be proud of who we are. And so those are some of the bills that I've worked on and some of the things that I've did to bridge that Native American and relationship to the Capitol. And I have interns that are Native. Some of them come from Haskell. Some of my pages that help me come from the Kickapoo School. And I'm always looking for students or Native students who are interested. So if you're interested to ever intern for me, our sessions from January to May, and I'm always looking for students that are interested in, like I said, even if you're not interested, just come shadow me for a day to see what I do. Reach out to me on Facebook or the legislative page, the Kansas legislature page. Email me, because you got to start somewhere. That's how I started. And ask questions. Don't be afraid to get in there and learn the process. That's the only way that you'll learn.
Great, that's wonderful. Well, I could go on. We can talk more, but I think I want to give our audience a chance to ask questions if there are any. So for our viewing audience, if you have any questions that you would like to ask Representative Victor Kozad, please drop them in the chat, and we will get some questions, a Q&A session going. But as people are formulating their thoughts right now, can you share with us some advice, especially for our STEM scholars? They're just coming off this unprecedented year, and just kind of looking ahead. What's happening globally, nationally. There's just a lot of things going on. But do you have any advice to share with our students?
Yes. Like I said, try to get involved locally, ask questions, and there's always opportunity to grow. So get involved, like with internships or programs. There's scholarships available, which is really important. That was important for me. And, get to know your homework tonight is who is your representative or senator, and write to them, reach out to them. You can get involved that way. And don't forget to vote in November. Every November, there's some kind of election, whether it's city elections, county election. I mean, it's so important. A lot of people, want to complain a lot about the system, but they're not even registered to vote. That is so important, is to know who your leaders are and to hold them accountable. And so my advice would be to, even if you want to go a certain direction with your career, be open to everything, every kind of possibility or opportunity that comes your way. Take it, because that's how I got here. I never went to Washington, D.C. in my life. I never been away from home. But I applied and I won one of the spots, and I'm so thankful that I did. I would have never known who made the decisions for us. I would have never known all of that. And so it opened my eyes up to all of that. And, I didn't know about, the science teacher, women's science teachers versus male science teachers. I had no clue about that issue either. And so, you know, it just opened up my mind. And like I said, take every opportunity that you possibly can. I invited you to the Capitol. Be sure to come and visit me. We're right down the road in Topeka. And so I always want to encourage, or if you have like a little sister or a brother that, you know, would like to page for me, let me know, let my office know so that we can get them in there. And a page is like a person that helps you throughout the day, and but also is an opportunity to see our legislative chamber, take a tour at the Capitol one day. And like I said, come see me work in action. And, you know, with this pandemic, keep going. I know a lot of things have moved online. And so I graduated last year, but I had to wait to walk in May. And I did it. It was an awesome experience. And I'm so glad that I pulled through, because I didn't, you know, it was hard to do a pandemic, go through a pandemic last summer and do my dissertation, but I got it done. And don't forget to take care of you. I walk, I run, I swim. I'm not constantly like 100%, you know, this isn't my life. I have other things that I do too, as far as attending powwows or traveling with my family. So don't forget to take care of you, because you can be so into it that you get burned out. We don't want that to happen. So don't forget to take a break from your computer and get to go outside and enjoy a walk in the park or something. So, and then get yourself together and come back.
All right, so we have a question for you. Kelly is asking, have you ever felt imposter syndrome, or otherwise feeling like you were not welcome or didn't belong in a certain space? And if so, how did you overcome those feelings?
Oh yeah, I feel like that all the time. When I go to meetings, sometimes I come in the room and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I am brown, I'm a woman, and I'm a Democrat in Kansas. And I'm sitting at the table with all these white male, my colleagues, and I sit down, and yeah, I do feel, you know, of course I stand out. And a lot of times, you know, they've joked that they thought a lot of times you see women cry, you know, because they intimidate them. But the only person that I'm scared of is my mom and God. And I'm not scared of them, and they know it. And so you just have to go in and say, hey, I belong here too. And if there's not a chair for you, then pull up a chair. That's how I see it. Or, you know, like I said, once you get to know people and network with people, you'll break those stereotypes down, and then they'll say, oh, well, she's not so bad, you know. And I've used a lot of that to my advantage too, as far as, you know, not stepping on toes, but I really need help with this bill. I'm not sure if I know how to do it right. Oh, I'll help you. Oh, I'll support you. So, you know, you just have to use it. Sometimes break down those, you know, feelings. And you know, there's a lot of people that are won't work with me, but there's a lot more people that will. And so I try to not take anything personal. It's hard. And I choose my battles. I save my bullets, because I could be mad and like I said, use up all my bullets, and nobody really will pay attention to me or what the issues that I have forward. But if I just swallow it and say, I'm going to wait, and when I see my opportunity to move in, then that's what I'm going to do. And my mom, she teases me because she calls me, okay, so you're sitting on that hill waiting for, you know, waiting for the right opportunity. You know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting and waiting. And when my opportunity comes, then I'll be ready. And so, like I said, save your bullets. Sometimes it's not worth the hassle, because there's a lot of people who don't want to, have already made up their mind, and there's no use of trying to argue with them or persuade them, unfortunately. And like I said, take them on when it really counts. And that's as far as like pushing my bills through and on the house floor. That's when we can be ready for battle. But for now, you know, like I said, I feel like that all the time, being the only Native. I've learned how to deal with that, and it could be an issue, and I try to tell other Native women that step into this role how it's going to be. You know, a lot of times you feel like you're going to get ate up, and because politics is ruthless. I make it look easy, but it is hard. I've said a lot of things said to me, a lot of things have happened. It's not for the weak, but my mom's made me a strong woman. And like I said, at the end of the day, I only fear my mom and God. And so that's helped me a lot. You deserve to be at that table, then pull up a chair and sit there and, you know, add whatever you would like to into the conversation. That's so important.
Wow, this has been great. We are almost at an hour, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to share about your journey, and also sharing advice and wisdom. And I really hope that, you know, the things that you've mentioned, you've commented on today, that our viewers, especially our students, even our professionals that are watching, you know, just to, know that the future is uncertain, right? And so you never know what direction you're going to take, what direction you'll be able to head. And I think it's so cool that your experience coming out of your undergraduate with your biology degree, led you to DC and led you, and opened up, all these opportunities, and to have you where you're at now. I mean, that's amazing. That's wonderful. I think the really cool thing too is that, I mean, I've known Ponka-We for a while, since she's been dancing in juniors. I've known her in the junior category at powwows. So I've known this amazing woman for a while, and just really appreciate all the work that she's done, especially in the state of Kansas, and that she continues to be a role model. We are seeing more and more people stepping up, our Native women especially, into taking on roles, assuming roles, running for leadership positions. And so that's great. That's great. And just again, commend you for all the work that you've done, especially for the state of Kansas, the Natives in the state of Kansas. And of course, I live in Kansas. So this really rings true for me as well. So with that, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to take us out for today's webinar. So if you have any additional questions or would like to continue this discussion, we invite you to connect to our online community. Follow the link on the screen or in the chat window, actually just on the screen in this one, and sign up into your SACNAS membership to get started. We also want to hear from you. Immediately after this webinar, you will be redirected to a brief survey. I encourage you to provide feedback on today's program and suggestions for future webinars. Also, we will be releasing information on our upcoming conference soon. If you want to keep up to date, we encourage you to visit our conference webpage. Finally, if you enjoyed today's webinar, you can find upcoming and previous webinars on our website at sacnas.org/webinars. On behalf of the SACNAS Native Initiatives Program, we want to thank the National Institutes of Health for their support. And this concludes our visit with Ponka-We Victor's COZAD. Aho, thank you for taking time and joining us today. And we hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.